Welcome to the Non-Standard Podcast. I'm your host, Manny Lamson, and what you're going to find in these episodes is just how to improve your quality of leadership just 1% at a time. We don't cover very extreme things because you'll find out that leadership is about consistency, doing the basic things great, and understanding people at the utmost ability to help them get to where they need to go. So I always have a guest on my show, and these guests are going to provide you with some of the basics that they lead by, some of the examples throughout their life, their story, and then also we cover my leadership philosophy in there as well that has helped guide me in becoming a leader as well. So again, the intent here is just for you to learn, and I hope you do. And if you do, you know what to do. Just save, share, like, or follow, anything you got to do to continue this journey. I look forward to doing more and more of these episodes. And with that being said, let's get on with today's episode. On today's episode, I'm joined with Lieutenant James Harris. He is in the Navy. He recently just graduated from the Naval Academy after playing football there for a few years, so we have that great relationship as well. Some of the things we talk about, obviously we go into the 3 H's. Some of his leadership traits he brings to the table are control what you control, failing, and grit. We also dive into 75 hard and how fitness has made him a better leader as well. It's just amazing conversation we have. We have a lot in common, and it all started through social media, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys learn a lot. And if you have any further questions, please let me know, and I will leave his contact info in the show notes as well. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Non-Standard Podcast. If you've been following it, there has been a decent break, but that's just the way life is with everything going on. But I love the challenge of a podcast because it could as easily just be a stopping point for me. Be like, hey, I got 60 episodes in. I could just call it good. But no, I keep meeting great people every day, and I love it because I have this queue of just amazing people that I want to catch up with and record with. And today is just one of those people I met. And James, we'll talk about it later. But I say it every episode: the more people I meet on social media, the more I surround myself with amazing people and the more I want them on the show. And it's fun for me just to literally ask somebody randomly on TikTok, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And so without further ado, I will stop talking because I'm just excited because it's been a while since I've recorded a show. And obviously it's not about me, but it's about you. James, we'll jump straight into it. The 3 H's, hometown heroes and hardships. And welcome to the pod, man.
Perfect. I really appreciate you for giving me a chance here. Podcasts are so amazing. There's so many topics that you can get into. And, when you talk to another individual and somebody else is watching, it kind of seems like they're also involved in a conversation. So I love podcasts. I love what you're doing. Very admirable. So you see when we start with the 3 H's, is that correct?
Yeah. So hometown heroes and hardship.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I am from Mobile, Alabama. Born and raised. I moved away when I was 17, but every time I bring up where I'm from, I have to give everyone a history lesson. So Mardi Gras was originated in Mobile, Alabama. Despite what you think, a lot of people think it's New Orleans, but it's Mobile. And I always say it because it was a huge tradition in my family. We had the Mardi Gras courts, and we celebrated like no other. So if you haven't been to Mardi Gras in Mobile, Alabama, you need to go. You won't regret it. The funny thing about me growing up in Mobile is that I didn't know much about the military, but since I played football during high school, I wanted to get recruited. And one team that was looking at me and that showed a lot of love was the Naval Academy. So I had some looks from there, and also West Point and Air Force and a couple of other schools, HBCUs, Ivy League schools. But just the way that the Naval Academy showed so much love, I was like, it's a no-brainer. But at first, when they came to my school, since I didn't know much about the different ratings and officer versus enlisted, I pushed it off immediately. I was like, I'm not going to a military school. You can cut it out. But there was just so much that I didn't know with being an officer and how much of an opportunity it is to go to a school like the Naval Academy and with the acceptance ratings and finally being able to get out of Mobile, Alabama, right? Annapolis is the capital of Maryland. A lot of people forget about that. Annapolis is super beautiful. It's in the DMV area. It's very close to DC, very close to Baltimore, driving distance. So I'm super thankful for, going through there and graduating from the academy. I'll get into my heroes. I can talk on and on about the academy, but we can
No,
circle back. But
man, and I that's crazy how football brought the military to you, because every person I've had on my show, I haven't had this much of a connection with, and we talked about it before, and obviously playing college football as well after I got in the military is always a fun thing. And yeah, for I guess the branches to reach out to you is always really interesting to me, because I always thought it was the other way around. Like, people would go to the service branches to go join those colleges, but for you to have them reach out to you and not having any military background, that's a huge, huge jump, man. Like, that's all or nothing. You're like, cool, football, but it's not really football when you go there, man. It's not. It's not like when I went to Washington State. Like, I was just at a normal college, doing football with ROTC. But for you, even though football is what got you there, football wasn't like the end result. Like, it was that stepping stone to the military. And I guess, what would have that option have been like? Because I know there's always talks about people that go to the pros. This is just out of my curiosity. And there's that like commitment thing. Was there ever a thought in your mind of like, hey, if I go to the Naval Academy, what's that like for my future with football as a passion? Or were you like all in on joining the service and moving down that road?
So that was the huge selling point for me with, if you're good enough at a military academy, you can go pro if you're good enough. So I was like, well, I will have security after I graduate. I'll be a commissioned officer. I'll be an O1. So if I'm not good enough, I fall out of love with football, I'll still be good. Promised career, great institution to graduate from, being in the best branch of the military. No offense. But it was so many promises, just like, do the 4 years and you'll be making a good living. You'll be able to serve this country. And I thought it was a no-brainer. I went to school with maybe 6 or 7 people who were able to pursue a career in the NFL. So like, I was able to see it. So, witness it and play with them. So that was like a huge selling point.
How was it for your family, taking that leap, like right out of high school to, hey, this isn't just a normal college. This is like, a basic training, for 4 years and then moving on.
Yeah, they weren't a huge fan of it, especially since me being the only child.
Okay.
I didn't have a lot of agreements with my decision. They always wanted what's best for me. So, and I appreciate that. A lot of people will have their best interest at heart, even if it doesn't come off that way. But I realized it was their best interest. So I didn't have much support, but going through there, and when like my family visited me, and especially after I commissioned, that's when they finally realized like, oh yeah, you definitely made the right decision. When they was there, and it's always the football games. They come up for the football games, and it's beautiful in Annapolis. Annapolis is so beautiful. They have a great time at the football games, and then I'm getting ready to graduate. We have commissioning week, and there's balls, and the graduation itself, and a whole bunch of ceremonies, and so many traditions, and they're able to witness all of that, and they realize like I was a part of a great community, and it was definitely the best decision for me when I was coming out of high school.
Man, that's cool. We'll dive a little bit more into the academy, or the Naval Academy with leadership stuff, but let's hear about your heroes going down that road.
Okay. Man, you gave me a nice little survey, and this question made me think a lot.
It does. Some people take it different ways. Some people go down like a DC Marvel, like I'm a huge Punisher guy, so like that's sort of like my alter ego guy. And then some people, which I always love, is like the dads or the parents, which is why I love this question, because I don't direct it on like, movie hero or like real world hero or fictional. It's just like, I just throw it out there.
And I appreciate it. It made me think long and hard, and I was like, oh, this is something I need to think of. So the first thing that I said, or whatever, it's my future self. And I said that because I want to be a successful person. And success for me is being the best person that I can possibly be. That's it, and that is all. And I believe in order to get to the potential of our future selves, you have to handle the present tense. And I feel like even though I'm not living in the future, I'm living in the present. My feet are here. I try to be where my feet are. I'm doing a lot of things for the future, right? I'm single. I don't have kids. I do want to be married one day, right? So I have to do the things I have to do for me, myself as a man, but also as a future husband, as a future father. So my future self, and not to be weird or anything, but I talk to my future self all the time. Like, I'm coming for you. Like, the
Yeah.
next goal, the next accolade, like, the next race or whatever it was to get this promotion or to get this qualification. I'm envisioning myself a month or two from now to, kind of get how it feels.
Yeah.
So that's why I said my future self, because I'm a huge believer. It's like you versus you. It's me versus me at the end of the day. Your biggest downfall is yourself. It depends on how hard you want to work.
Yeah, and I love that because there's so much truth to believing in what you want to do to accomplish it. Like there's a lot of people I listen to and a lot of stuff I read that's like, and I know it's big in the samurai culture as well. When I was in Japan looking at it, they have a huge belief in like, you believe where you want to go and you'll get there. I know Matthew McConaughey talks about it as well. You think it, you believe it, you achieve it, and you're thinking of where you're going to be in a month, a year, 3, 5 years, and you're going to get there regardless. Like, I love that concept. I do it like with vision boards, right? Vision boards is like me thinking of my future self.
Yeah.
I go to my gym every morning. I see where I want to be, which is, like a bigger podcast or, home gym, all this stuff. And ultimately, and everything you're saying is just speaking right to me, and I hope everybody listening knows, like, you control where you're going to go. And obviously, one of your leadership traits that we talked about is control what you control as well.
For sure.
If you can think it, you can believe it, you can achieve it. And that is, some people just don't think it's that possible. Like, they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. You're like, dude, just do it. Wake up in the morning for like a week and just think like, I can lose 5 pounds, maybe something simple like that. And it just compounds over and over again.
Right. And before I get into my second one, I'm a huge factual guy. I'm a huge science guy. So if it's any topic or anything that I do, I look it up. And with believing in yourself, like manifestation and reciting words of affirmation, to the scientific point, like we are who we are due to the experiences, the things that we witness and what we've done. And so you have your conscious and your subconscious, right? And so if you continuously recite things, you make yourself believe it, then you're literally reprogramming your subconscious without even you realizing you will do the things that are part of your subconscious. And so when it comes to anything I do in life, I always say, let me get the facts. Let me relate it to science because I'm a huge science nerd. I'm a huge math nerd. And once I realized that, and I watched a lot of podcasts and watched a lot of seminars, and they confirmed exactly what I said, I was like, okay, yeah, manifestation, the words of affirmation, I will continue to do so. And it's been working for me. So
yeah, nice. What about your other hero?
So this one took a while. I was going through a couple people, but I think it makes the most sense to hit closest home as possible. And my second hero is David Farragut. Are you familiar with him?
I didn't look it up or anything right before, so I was going to let you. Yeah.
Yeah. So during the Civil War in amidst of the Mobile Bay, there was a battle there. And David Farragut, he was one of the commanders within the I'm not sure if they called it a strike group back then, but he was like a commander, captain of a ship. And they were going through a lot of turmoil. He was on the Union side. They were going against the Confederates. He was going through a lot of turmoil. A few of the ships in the vicinity that was on his side were getting flipped, and there were a lot of bombs going along, and there was a lot of chaos. Right, a lot of his sailors were panicking. They didn't know what to do, and so there were questions. What are they going to do at that point with all of this going on? And the famous quote is, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." And the torpedoes are a huge weapon in the naval arsenal, so they were getting attacked by several different types of ammunition, but torpedoes are like one of the big ones. And so we, as a naval member, I've heard it so much at the academy, but I kind of just heard it. Like, I believe we even have a football uniform kind of themed after Damn the Torpedoes. And this hit home for me because it made me realize that you always need to stick to the plan. Sometimes you need to pivot, sometimes you need to change things up, but the goal is a goal. And you might go through a lot in between there. There might be little points in the halfway that might not go your way, but the goal is still the goal, and you have to be fearless. You have to keep pushing regardless of what's going on around you. So it's fighting through adversity, and that's what hit home for me. Me being in the Navy, me constantly fighting through adversity, and also it being, in the Mobile Bay, where I'm from. So I just love that quote, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. Forget what's going on. Forget if you're tired, forget if you're not feeling the best. Like, the mission is the mission, the goal is the goal, and that's why David Farragut is my second hero.
That's good. Yeah, it just drives home the point of, like, just like you said, if you have a goal, there's no easy pedal, right? Or easy mode. It's like, and so like in the first form community, and one of the ones we use a lot is just pedal down, like that's what my coach tells me a lot. That's what we always try to preach. And because you have to have the pedal down at all times, because as soon as you let up, like you're going to lose momentum, man. And momentum is huge. My kids and my wife hate it when we travel because I throw on podcasts like all the time. And my kids will just be like, not another podcast. Anyways, I was on Ed Milet, just like binge yesterday, driving through Mississippi and Louisiana. And one of them I listened to was with Matthew McConaughey, and he talks about momentum in there. And he says it's just like once you're on it, you have to just like keep it down. And like you said, and it reminded me of some of the struggles I've had in my career where I wasn't going on the path I wanted to go down right away. But in the end, it led to like the same goal. And you guys can't really see my hands right now, but I'm sort of showing like, here's the goal and there's a path, like a straight line. But sometimes that path is going to take you on these side roads. But in the end, you get to where you want to go. Like, for instance, most people's like 20 years to retire, right? There's that goal. Now, for most people, they have like one direct line of how they want to get there. But, like you said, life's going to throw you off. But the goal is still there. Like that 20-year retirement is still there. It's what you do along the way. That's like, for me, that's why I preach so much on non-standard, because my career has been pretty non-standard, but the end goal is still going to be 20 years. Like I'll still get my 20 years, but I've had a very different career than most. And so you reminded me of, for people listening, if there's ever a time where you think you're thrown off or you hit a roadblock, don't worry. Like it's supposed to be there. Like there is intent for these struggles that we're supposed to have. Like my wife, she's opening me up to be a little, focused more on my religion. And she always preaches like God has a reason for everything. And so there's a reason they throw hurdles at us and make us work hard and make us struggle, because he knows like we can do it and we need it to get there and sort of appreciate that end goal. And so that's what it reminded me of when you're like, hey, like you still need to go full steam ahead. It's just sometimes you're just going to take a different road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's jump into your hardship.
Hardship. Oh, yeah, perfect. Because my hardship was attending the United States Naval Academy. I also thought about that one for a little bit. I feel like I went through a lot of hard things, but I picked the Naval Academy specifically because it was 4 years, a little bit over 4 years, and that's a long time. And there were, similar to what you said, like the goal, this is perfect. The goal was to graduate from the United States Naval Academy, commissioned as a naval officer. However, through those 4 years, there were several problems that I went through. There were several challenges that I was facing where I kind of almost forgot the end goal. And so the Naval Academy, it was super tough because you're a midshipman, right? You're an officer in training. So you're in the military, you're wearing your uniform every single day. You're doing watches, you're doing professional knowledge classes on top of your academic schedule. And then within the academic schedule, you do have military classes. So we had navigation, we had leadership, and you were expected to act like a naval officer because that's what you're trained to be. So you were supposed to uphold that standard 24/7. So not only that, majority of the people there play the sport. We have a few Division I sports at the Naval Academy. Yeah. Lacrosse team is really good. Our rugby team is really good. And for me, I played football. So that was a lot within itself. You played at Washington State, and that is a lot. My
wife, we rarely saw each other when I was going to college because she worked nights at a loss prevention and like a Shopko, which is like a Safeway. Mm-hmm. And my schedule was probably pretty similar to you. I woke up at like 5, had workouts for football, and then if we had film before school, we had that for meetings, positional meetings, and then you'd change, go straight to class from like 8 to like noon or 2. Then you had, film before practice around 2 to 4, and then you had practice, and then more weights, and then I'd come home and do homework. And I didn't have a crazy degree, which was very fortunate. ROTC didn't take a lot of time. My commander was really cool with me doing football. He knew like that schedule was crazy. But man, dude, I had an appreciation for that student-athlete relationship because for the guys that were on scholarship that were like starters that really needed to like focus on the practice, like for me as a walk-on, like I'll say my head was never like in the film, right? Because I was just like,
Right.
I'm not gonna like, cool, it's great, but I wasn't invested as much because I knew I wasn't a starter, I wasn't gonna get the rest. But for the guys that were, like that was their life, right? They were looking on football after college. I wasn't. I had the military, and so I knew that. And so, but I loved the gym, man. I loved the community of just like.
Absolutely.
And that's why I love being here and wanting to do that after I retire, get back into the football community or just the college realm of strength. Because my strength conditioning coach is my idol, man. Like he opened me up to so much doors. We're still great friends to this day. He's with, I hope he's still with the Bears now. But yeah, sorry to go on my tangent for that. But it's, and so now that I have somebody to like relate this to, it's fun to just like throw it out there. But yeah, keep talking about, obviously more on the academy side with that in sports.
Yeah, and so with football, that was a lot within itself. Like we were playing within the AAC. So the AAC, when we were playing it, I think it still is. It's a pretty big conference, right? We had Cincinnati, who just went to the playoffs a few years ago against Bama. We had Memphis, Houston. We played Notre Dame is not in the AAC, but we played Notre Dame every year. We're playing top 25 contenders in the NCAA. So this is like big time ball. And similar to you, which is funny, like you were around those guys at Washington State who were playing to go to the NFL. We were playing against these teams. We were playing against these players where their goal is to play in the NFL. Yeah. So and we're getting closer to NIL, so they're getting more money. Like, and it's top of the line talent here. So that was a challenge. And also the academics, it was super tough because I was really humbled because graduating from high school, I never really had problems with schooling because for me, it was just more so a discipline thing. Do your homework, study. I didn't do well on the ACT initially, but I did a practice test, a few, and I went to a couple tutoring sessions, got my ACT score up. So it was more so just discipline and doing the same things over and over again. However, when I got to the academy, since you get a bachelor's of science and the Naval Academy has a lot of prerequisites, like the average course load each semester was like 18 credits. And I also, I don't regret it, but during it, I was regretting it. I pursued a degree in cyber operations. And so it was very, coding heavy, Python, Java, the whole nine. So I'm just loading myself with an immense amount of work. And since those classes weren't easy, like Physics 2 and Calculus 3 and Electrical Engineering, those classes weren't easy. So I also had to go back and get tutoring because I couldn't rely on my test scores. I had to do the homework. If I didn't know the homework too well, didn't understand, then I had to go to tutoring. So just having to balance all those three, and then at the end of the day, like you're still a human being. You still have a social life. You don't want to lose yourself. You still want to talk to your family. I still wanted to grow spiritually. So I'm still trying to go to Bible study. I'm still trying to go to church. And it's like I'm trying to be a normal human being, but also juggle all these things, all these aspects. However, I'm just super glad that I continued and pushed through and just embraced everything because now I'm at a point where I went through all of that. It's like I can handle a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I was juggling so much, and the leadership there, they held us to a higher standard. And even though through those 4 years it sucked, like every single point of it sucked, and it was a little bit better because we had roommates and there were a lot of other midshipmen. We were embracing the suck together. Like we were all suffering together. So, there were beautiful moments that we had going through all that. But, at the end of the day, it was like, this is horrible. But now as a naval officer where, my focus is my job. Yeah. Right. And I still have a social life, but I'm not playing Division I football. And I'm not currently pursuing a degree in cyber operations. It's like, yes, it's more so the real world, but it's like when it comes to workload, I'm prepared. I'm ready to go.
Nice. What were some of the leadership stuff they taught you throughout the Naval Academy? And you don't have to go too far in depth, but just some big picture stuff. Like, did it help set you up for when you became an officer? Because the Air Force Academy, and I loved how you said the Naval Academy like treats you like a naval officer from like day one. Like you're expected to. Like that's your expectation. In the Air Force Academy, it's sort of a little different. Like you're sort of treated as more like a college student cadet going through, and then you become an officer. So it's cool to see your side of like the Naval Academy, where it's like, hey, you get there and it's like you're an officer. You know, obviously you're still learning, but like we're gonna treat you and present you and work you like an officer. You know, and then when you graduate, you are an officer per se. And so that was really cool to hear. But what were some of the leadership stuff you remember that helped you when you got to that first, I don't know if it's like ship or squadron or unit, where you have all these midshipmen below you and they're looking up to you now?
Well, first, let me talk a little bit more about at the Naval Academy. Yes, when it came to like the military aspects and your performance, yes, they held us to a standard of a naval officer. However, it was more so progressional with them treating you like an actual naval officer. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
like when I was a plebe, we couldn't wear civilian attire. We had to wear uniform 24/7. Didn't get much freedom. We were able to leave on Saturdays. We had a lot of study hours. We had to be here at this time. So it was very, very structured at the beginning of my Naval Academy career. But once we got to like senior year, then it was like, okay, you guys are about to hit the fleet. The classes that you're now taking are going to be more applicable to your job or what community that you're going to go into. But to dive a little bit more deeper into the classes, like I said, we take navigation. We go out into we go onto the boats and we learn how to navigate a ship. And we had summer internships where we were able to also do like approachment and learn what it's like to be on a submarine, learn what it's like to be in an air squadron. But one thing I like to focus on are the leadership classes. And they were so well put because the course load that you have as a midshipman is very rigorous. It's very math and science heavy, and it's tough. Whereas like when we finally get to a leadership class, right, we're sitting in a circle space now, and it's open communication where it's not for you to be mentally drained. It's for you to open your mind and to think like when you get to a certain situation. And one topic I remember specifically is like moral dilemmas. Like if you are a CEO and you have to make a decision, if somebody's in danger, right? It was ethics class. We had ethics class where when it came down, you know, potentially if your ship's about to go underway and you have a sailor who is a vital piece of your shop, but he's having trouble at home, right? And he doesn't have much support for somebody to take care of his kids. How do you make a decision? How do you, balance the mission versus also caring for your sailors, right? He has a personal life. He has kids. And if he doesn't have anyone there for him and the ship's about to go underway, where do you pick? So those classes really meant a lot because I still remember them to this day. And I remember the professors, and those were super, super helpful with learning how to balance things within the Navy.
Nice. So did it feel like when you made that next step after graduation and you were ready to move on an officer, how was that transition? Was it pretty, I don't know, scary? I'm not sure like what word I would use.
Yeah, it wasn't as seamless. I would say the biggest thing is that the Naval Academy is it's literally a gated community. Like we have a lot of support, but it's not the real world, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
I think the biggest shock for me was going into the fleet and realizing like this is real life. Whereas like at the like seriously, at the academy, we had a few prior enlisted there within the squads, right? I was in a squad where 3 or 4 were prior enlisted. I was with a prior Marine and like 2 or 3 other prior Navy people. But I believe majority of the people at the Naval Academy were either directs or coming from a different prep school or coming from another college. And so there wasn't much chaos. There wasn't too many things out of nature that you witnessed while at the academy. And then you go into the fleet, where it's like I went into the fleet when I was 21 years old. And then I realized like, oh, this sailor is having trouble at home with his wife. And this sailor is about to get his kids taken, or this sailor doesn't have a babysitter. So it's like that was the biggest culture shock for me because I was in that academy environment for so long where I didn't realize like this is real life out here. And I eventually got used to it, and you just have to hear your sailors out and hear your
Yeah.
members out for what they are dealing with, and kind of how to troubleshoot and kind of have empathy towards their decisions.
Yeah. Nice. Man, that's cool. Yeah, because I talked to a lot of Air Force cadets, as they're getting ready to make the jump. I have a lot of connection with some of them, and they're always asking me like, "Hey, what should I do when I first, get to my squadron or whatever?" And I think you hit on a couple of them. You have to understand them, have empathy for them, because like you said, they have lives too. Like they've been in for a lot longer. They have families, and so even though you may not understand it, you still have to be able to empathize with them and work with them and support them as they continue to work through all that. Yeah. Yeah, I never, I guess, had to really do that. Obviously, coming from prior enlisted side, I understood that when I became an officer. So I was, I guess, grandfathered in that. It was sort of nonchalant to me. So I always have to put myself in that perspective of that young lieutenant or someone coming in that's like, hey, okay, how do I work with somebody who's 30 plus years old, who's been doing this for 10 plus years? And for me, that really hit hard for me when I became a flight commander for one of my squadron shops where I had 30 airmen below me. I was a young captain, and I just remember showing up there, and my senior enlisted airman at the time, or was just like, he's my flight chief, is like, hey, this person, is going through a divorce, or this person's suffering with this. I need you to talk to them, or hey, this person's going to show up late. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is all this stuff like? I thought I was just here like help them do the job, but it's like no, like I was getting texts like at midnight, or early in the morning about someone's in a drunk tank or someone's here, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But it definitely made me like, okay, I'm not just a flyer, very similar to what you did at Academy. That's how it was when I transitioned to flying to become a flight commander. I was so focused on flying for 3 years. That's all I did as a new officer in the Air Force was fly. So when I became a flight commander, I'd be like, hey, I'm not flying anymore. Like I'm outside my bubble. I'm in the real Air Force now. Like I have other people in my shop that have other things going on. And so I really had to take that hat and put on, another hat and figure out my leadership belt from there.
It's amazing.
Oh, man, that's cool. All right, let's dive into my leadership philosophies here, and we'll hit those, and then we'll jump into some meat and potatoes of this endurance stuff that we love to talk about so much. So for those listening, if this is your first time or you've heard before, I live my life off these 4 leadership philosophies. It's how I govern like everything I do for my day. It's lead by example in all you do. To be selfless, you have to be selfish. Build relationships based off trust and care. And then challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. And I say those so quickly because they're habit for me. Everything I do, be it in the gym, at work, with my family, they tie into those. And so out of those 4, I'll ask you, which one do you like and which one do you think some people may struggle with that we can talk about a little bit before we move on?
I think the one that's sticking out to me the most is to be selfless, you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
For sure, because it's a balance that you have to really, really think about. Because at the end of the day, if you're not intact, if you're not growing yourself, if you can't be a great officer, which is solely dependent on you more than likely, then you won't be the best leader as possible, for your sailors or for your soldiers or whoever it is, what force. So I think that is something to really deeply think about, where sometimes you got to make a decision. I need to improve here, and there might be a sacrifice within that.
Yeah, that's the one that I love because it's not heard of as much. Most of the time we hear like you have to take care of your people, you have to do this, which is true. But like you said, for me to give the best to my airmen, I have to be the best myself. And that's the way I always tell people is I can't expect you to do something if I can't do it. And that's sort of why I went on this journey of like physical fitness, like hardcore down the endurance route, because I wasn't leading by example. A few years ago where I was like, hey, go get 100 on your PT test, right? But I wasn't getting 100 on my PT test, but I wanted them to because I knew it would look good for them, but they weren't going to do it because I wasn't doing it. Or, hey, I need you to go exercise, but if I'm only doing the same exercise myself all the time, which was Olympic lifting and doing all this stuff that I was comfortable with, because that's what I did in football, it's what I did when I was enlisted, I can't expect them to go challenge themselves as well. And so that one is
absolutely.
I love it because it's direct, and a lot of people are always thrown off by it. It's like, ooh, like, whoa, you want me to like focus on myself? Like that's rude, like how am I supposed to take care of my people? And I'm like, because that's why.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then that's why I just love that one. It's just good. But I think it ties directly into this endurance journey we're both on. So I want you to talk about what got you started on this, because it sounds like you didn't do a lot of it when you played football. Obviously, it sounds like we were pretty similar with just the Olympic lifting, strength training. I don't know if you did any when you were at the Naval Academy or it happened when you got out. But talk about this transformation, this journey down battling your mind, and yeah.
So it all started, man, we have very similar paths. It all started with me last year during 75 hard.
Oh, and nice. I don't know if we talked about that.
You made a video about it and I commented.
Okay.
But we didn't really have an in-depth discussion about it. And so with 75 hard, one of the workouts has to be outside. And if you don't have like an outside gym or anything, there's only a few amount of things that you can do outside. And so at this point, I was up to about 240 pounds. I kind of lost myself a little bit. And I knew it was time for a change. And I thought 75 hard was a great opportunity. And I followed everything to the T, but, with the outside workouts, I started off walking because here in Italy, it's very rigorous walks. It's cobblestone, it's hot, and the hills are crazy. So even after 30 minutes of me walking super fast, I was getting a great workout in. And eventually, after maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, I said, well, let's start running a mile. I did that, got easier. Then I did 2, and then I did 3. And it was just like that slow progression because I had to do an outside workout every single day. So, and I'm not about to sit there and do the same thing every single day because it's going to get boring and I'm being complacent and I want to progress. So it got to a point where I was running like 7 to 8 miles, which is funny because at the academy, when we had like plebe summer, which is the boot camp, I was the guy falling out of the reg runs. I was the slow. I didn't do the long distance thing. I hated long distance, and I wasn't good at it. We had like big runs on Fridays or Saturdays, and they would only be like 5 miles, and I would drop at mile 3, and I was always the guy holding our squad back. And I just thought it was so funny. Years later, I'm able to run 7 to 8 miles effortlessly, and so we're getting to the end of 75 hard. I'm, reflecting because I feel myself being a better individual. I'm reading great non-fictional books. My diet is clean. I'm doing the Mediterranean diet. I'm drinking a gallon of water. I feel good. My confidence up. I'm losing weight. I think I lose about 30, 35 pounds. I believe this is peak. This is peak for me, even with football, because football was a little heavier and my athleticism and my strength was catered towards one thing, and which was my position. I was a bigger guy. Whereas this time, I'm lighter, I feel better, and I'm cleaner. So this is like peak conditioning for me. And going towards the end of 75 hard, I'm like, well, 7 to 8 miles, I might as well do a half marathon. So that's exactly how. It's like, why not? So that's exactly how I end 75 hard. My last day, I said, let's just do it. Ran a half marathon. And completed it. And it was unofficial. I ran it with my friend. And I love the way that I felt after achieving something so big and reflecting on how much it took to get there and who I used to be and not being a strong runner and having any excuse I want as my disposal to say, oh, well, I don't need to run. I used to do this. I used to do that. I could just do sprints. I stopped using those excuses. I stopped feeling bad for myself. And so I did the half marathon. And I was like, well, we came this far. Let's do a full marathon. So I decided right then and there, trained for a full month to do a full marathon in Zermatt, Switzerland, because I'm still in Italy at the time. And here in Italy, this part of Italy in Naples, there are certain areas where do you know when you open the weather app and you see like the air quality and it might be green or yellow or red? So in certain parts of Naples, it's like red all the time. Horrible air quality. So we got horrible air quality. We got cobblestone, not the best conditions to train in, but I still train in it. So when I got to my full marathon in Switzerland, which is like super clean, Switzerland is super, super expensive, but it makes sense because it's so clean and so tidy. It's very beautiful. So it makes sense. Air quality was amazing. I crushed the full marathon. My goal was to finish sub 4, and that's exactly what I did. I did sub 4. I got a 3:56, and that's exactly where I started. Because last year I was like, every year I'm going to do something super, super challenging, something that I'm almost afraid of. And last year was the full marathon, and I had to figure out what I want to do this year. I said we might as well double it and do 50 miles. And so that is what I just completed about a month ago, 50-mile ultra marathon in Lewisburg.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Obviously, it's like the same road I did. Man, it's cool to hear because those that have done 75 hard know it's not the physical part that changes you. Yes, you change, but it's like the mind, the capacity, and everything you said is exactly what I went through. I started with the walks of my family. Then I threw on a ruck because I did a lot of rucking with it. So then I started rucking. Then I started jogging. Then I did a half marathon. Then I did a full. Then I did a half Ironman. I did the Baton Death March, which is a marathon with a ruck on. I've done 4x4x48 a few times. I just keep suffering so much.
Yeah.
It's only because it just taught me, and we talked about it before. Run and here's what I tell a lot of people: the reason I saw so much growth in endurance training so fast is because I had the strength conditioning foundation for my whole life. Like, I wish if I were to train an athlete, I would have them lift for like 5 years, just like lift, and then start running and doing triathlons because they would excel so quick. Like, absolutely. I jumped straight into half Ironman training, straight into running, and I saw a great improvement because my body was structurally built from Olympic lifting and strength training. I could endure it. I could withhold it. And all I was losing was fat, and I was shredded and lean when I lost my 45 pounds. Like, I was just like a new person, which I still am to this day. And very similar, like I did the reading. Another buddy I did a podcast with talked about it as well, where he sets one of those goals every year. I can't remember what it's called. There's a term for it. It's like Miyagi or something like that, where it's like a hard goal you set every year for yourself. And very similar to what you were talking about. And for me, it's sort of the same. But I always continue to add on those other goals. Like, I try to do now 2 marathons a year. Sometimes I'll run it by myself if I'm behind. Or I love the Air Force Marathon because it's a great one for me to go do. It's easy to do. I love the atmosphere up there. I do a lot of my rucks. So very similar to what you did down that journey. Let's talk about the mind and the transition to being a leader, because that's what I want to hit home with this episode. If anybody takes anything away, is if you're thinking like, oh, I don't like to exercise, or I don't want to be like a meathead, or I don't have time to exercise, how's it going to make me a better leader? Instead of hearing it from me, I want them to hear it from you on how has it helped you become a better leader and just person overall doing that endurance stuff, not just endurance training, but just harder exercise.
Yeah. There are so many benefits of doing endurance training, especially when your sailors or airmen, they take wind of it. They realize like, oh, he ran 50 miles or he did this on his physical readiness test. It motivates them to go harder, right? So it rubs off on them. And also with the things you put yourself through during this endurance training, it kind of helps you to push not only yourself more, but also your sailors, right? If you build a relationship with them, then you want to see them do better. And coming from like how I progressed, I was at an all-time low maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was out of shape, 240 pounds. And I've witnessed and I realized like some of my sailors are exactly where I was. So I know exactly what I needed to hear during that time so I can help them progress, because the mission is important, but in order to get the best out of them, it's better to invest in them, because you want to be the best leader as possible. And in order to do that, you have to care for them. And that's beyond the Navy, right? You mentioned it before, getting those late night calls. It's important that your people feel as if you're somebody that they can call, right? Have that direct line, whereas you're there for them, but also, when it's time to go to work, they're locked in. Let's go towards the mission. Whereas, like, if something happens, something detrimental happens to their life, you're one of the first persons to know about it, and that's good. So yeah, those are definitely my two things, because as soon as I finished my 50-mile ultra marathon and I came back, they said, okay, well, when can I start running with you, right? And then and that rubs off to their PRT, and they're getting so much more accolades, and just being able to empathize with other military members for where they were and looking at them to see the potential that they have to not only be a great service member, but also a great individual.
Yeah. I'm going to reemphasize what you said. In order to get the best out of them, you have to invest in them. Man, that's why I love building relationships, man. If people want to be appreciated and they want to be, cared for and get to known, and you have to build relationships. And one of the easiest ways to build relationships, one is take them to go out and do something hard with them where they didn't think they can do, and it's funny that you say when you did that run, other people were asking you to go run with them. Like, that's how it was for me when I started this. I had other airmen that I didn't know that ran that wanted me to come run with them, or they wanted to come with me. And it's just so rewarding when I have airmen come with me. Like, I had an airman, and I do my 9-mile runs for my squadron since we're the 9th. And I put it in my group chat one day. I didn't think anybody was going to do it. I was like, hey guys, I got to do my 9 miles this morning. Anyone want to come? And an airman was like, I'll come. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this airman ran. I didn't know if he was going to make it. So I was nervous. I was like, shoot, what if I run too fast and he falls out? Like, I'm just going to have to leave him behind because I got to do my 9 miles. But we were running and he was keeping pace. He was a little bit behind me, but I was keeping an eye on him. And we hit this storm, and I talked about it on the episode. It's the saying of the buffalo, and that's why I love the buffalo in first form. Andy Frisella talks a lot about the buffalo as well. The buffalo is one of the most prized animals because when it sees a storm, it goes through it instead of around it. Because one, it's less time, it's less effort, you get more out of it. And we hit a thunderstorm in the middle of this run. It was 6 a.m. and it was coming for us. And I was yelling. I was like, Eric, be the buffalo. Just run through this storm. And you will.
That's motivating.
It'll open up your eyes. And I take off through the storm and I just start going.
That's
and
amazing.
It's torrential downpour for 5 minutes. And it's just this Abilene storm that comes through. I lose him in the storm. I get done and I see him pop through. And I was like, what'd you think? He was like, dude, that was amazing.
Absolutely.
I told myself, be the buffalo. And he said he never ran 9 miles before that. And I was like, oh my gosh, bro. What the heck?
Wow.
But it's just, and I've had airmen do that when I go on rucks with them, and they get done and they're like, Manny, that was the longest I've ever walked or rucked or ran. I was just like, dude, that's more than me going to combat or doing anything like that I've done in the V1, is when I see them go out and do this. And that's why and it's crazy. I tell them all, dude, the only reason I keep doing more of this is because y'all motivate me, because I need to keep doing more so it can be done. If I were just to stop after the baton, or, if you were to stop after your 50-miler, you're sort of I can't, because I do it for them now, There are so many workouts I do. That's why I love doing all my group workouts with the airmen at my house, because I tell them when I do these smoke sessions and these harder workouts, I go, dude, if you guys weren't here, I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have done 300 burpees for this workout, or I wouldn't have done a mile of lunges because you guys weren't here. I do harder workouts with people with me than I do on my own, because they're there with me.
That energy, energy is contagious. I still think about it to this day, because I'm more so introverted, and I've been trying to do a better job of being more extroverted and just embracing other individuals. And I remember I had this leg workout 5 months ago, and similar to you, this guy wanted to lift with me. He was enlisted, one guy that was on the watch with me. And at this time, similar to you, I didn't know how much he can lift. I didn't know if he could lift or whatnot. And man, it was early in the morning, maybe 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and it just got so hot in there. We were doing hack squats and quad extensions, and I've never went that hard on a leg workout since like I was playing football because just the energy. And he's so far, like he just started his fitness journey when it came to like lifting weights. But the energy that he had, like I was feeding off of him, like because I saw that he was giving all the effort. And just having that and seeing that when it's my turn, it's like I have to do the same exact thing. Right. And it was just so beautiful. I still think about that workout to this day. Me and him just in there getting after it. It got so hot in there. There was humidity all on the walls and the windows. And yeah, he he came into watch late that day. Was throwing up, knocked out. Yeah, but he said it was worth it. He loved
it. Let's dive into these leadership traits really quick. So we're going to cover, man, they're a freaking bombers. Let's talk about control what you control. Tell me why you love that one. I want people to understand one because that's one of my favorite ones as well. Why is that so important to you? But how do you express that to younger midshipmen or just people that don't understand it?
Absolutely. So you only know what you know, right? And I used to have a problem with. I'm still kind of battling it now, but definitely way better. I used to have a problem with anxiety, and that's because I always had my mind on the end goal and didn't really focus on the steps in between the end goal.
Dude, that's goal. And, yes.
Yeah. So if you continuously remember, control what you control. For example, like running my 50-mile ultra marathon. I started my goal at the beginning of this year, and I started to get super, super anxious because it's like I'm not in shape to run 50 miles. But all I was thinking about was running 50 miles. And I said, okay, let's backtrack a little bit. Let's do little milestones in between. Let's keep training. Let's do a half marathon here. I did a half marathon in Naples. Let's do a full marathon here. Did a full marathon in Brussels, Belgium. And then when it came time, it was a little bit more easier to get even more conditioned for the 50-miler coming off the full marathon. And so you're only capable of what you're capable of at that time. Like it is mind over matter, but it gets to a certain point where you can only control what you can control. And that's giving 100% every single day and slowly progressing. And, when it comes to the military and when it comes to working, there's always a problem in the military. There's always something to be fixed, right? But there are certain departments for it. And same thing when it comes to an installation, when it comes to a deconfliction, it might be a huge goal. It might be like, for example, I work within cybersecurity IT. It might be 1,000 scans that you have to do. Well, you have to start with one. You keep thinking about 1,000, you're gonna get locked in on the wrong thing. You have to start with one, then two, then three. So only control what you can control, and that's what you can see, and that's where your feet are, and that's moving forward right then and
there. Yeah, anxiety is a beast, man. I have been battling this a lot because people don't realize anxiety is exactly what you said. It's you thinking about an end result that's so far away you don't know how you're going to get there. So you start overthinking, you start stressing, you start losing sleep, and it builds. And that's why anxiety leads to stress, and stress leads to depression. And when you can stop anxiety, and it's deep. So like I was going through like my instructor upgrade the past 3 weeks, and I was nervous, and nervousness leads to anxiety. But I have learned through 75 Hard and through endurance training and mindset stuff that as soon as I go down that, like let's say as soon as I take that first step towards anxiety, what I've been able to do now is stop. Control the small things now, to focus on now, to not get it anxious. Before, I would go down this anxiety road, and then you're too deep and then you're stressed because you're focusing on the end goal. That's where a lot of people get stuck. They go down that road of anxiety. I tell people, as soon as you get that switch of anxiety, anxious, stop. Breathe, focus on what you control. What's going to control it to get you there? If it's a weight loss journey or if it's getting the next promotion, what can you control now? I can control showing up to work on time or earlier. I can control doing the steps of my job excellently right now. And then you don't get as anxious because you're doing what you control to get you there, right? I love the way you broke it down where it's just like, Just do something now to get you down that road. And weight loss is an easy way for me to explain it because I've been down that road, and it's just like, control your meals right now. Control just the next meal. And then 4 months from now, you're down that 20, 30 pounds where before you were nervous. You're like, oh, what if I overeat today and I fail and I crumble and life's over, right? Like, oh, God. No. Hey, stop, breathe, switch gears, control that. Man, that was a good one right there.
Absolutely.
What about fail? Failing's a good one too.
Yeah, and I think it ties into something that you said. A lot of people, they get hemmed up on the end goal and they get super anxious on where to start. And I think a lot of people focus on, because I was good at this, they focus on perfection. But if you kind of think about it, you'll never be perfect. You'll never be perfect. There's always room for improvement. And I think it's not talked about enough is that just go out there and fail. Like, don't be scared to fail, because once you realize like a failure is a lesson, you learn from it and you're going to progress from it every single time. And so, for example, like in a workplace, we do this professional development seminar every month at our command, and we had this this very high-ranking civilian of our AOR, and she was talking about her journey. She went through the Marine Corps, and now she's on the civilian side, and she talked about how her mentors and her old commanding officers always saw more in her, and they purposefully overloaded her. They purposefully gave her more tasks that she was willing to handle because they wanted to see how much she can do, and they wanted to give her a lesson that even if you fail, you just need to get right back up. And so they were demanding more from her, which made her stronger, and she learned from every single thing that she endured to be a better officer. When she started off as an enlisted and then transitioned to be an officer, and then being a civilian right now, she kept all of those lessons that she learned from that specific command, from all those failures, and she turned them into wins down the road. So I always push people to just go for it. Like, even if you don't know exactly what you need to know, you just need to know enough. You just need to know enough to get started, because that feedback, if you're processing and if you're focusing, you're going to realize what you need to do the next time.
Yeah. Two points I'll make on this one from both ends. One, if you're like the younger person on this journey that doesn't want to fail, you have to start. That's just the way it is. Like, there's no perfect time to start. You get better as you go, and then that's how you learn. The second thing, on the opposite side from the leadership side, most people don't know when they are given a task that's difficult for them, their supervisor or their flight commander knows they can handle it, and they want to see them struggle to grow. Now, the way I teach this to people is, if you're on the leadership side handing that task down, you need to be transparent and letting that person know, maybe up front, hey, the reason I'm having you do this, I know you can handle the failure if it happens. I know you can grow from it, and I know you will succeed. In the past, that was never mentioned because of the way leadership and mindset was back then. Like, people were just telling you to do things, and you did them. But we have this shift with this new generation of kids, I say, right, where they have to know why we're giving them these tasks. So I will go out and maybe tell some young airmen, like, hey, I'm going to have you run 4 miles today because I know maybe you won't make it, but you will grow from it, and I just need you to push a little bit further. It sort of gives them that comfortability, which I don't want them to have, but I need them to start it because they're in that comfortable mindset to start it. And so as a leader, I challenge people, hey, if you're going to give someone a task and you know they are up for it, tell them up front, like, hey, I'm going to give you this hard task. It's going to seem like you can't accomplish it, but you're going to struggle. I'm here for you if you need help, but I need you to grow as well. And so that's like the leadership side of how to help somebody fail, but also the bottom side of some people, because I've gotten those tasks and I didn't know why I was giving these tasks to fail. I was just like, yo, boss, like, you want me to do what? I have no idea how to do this. I don't want to do it. I'm scared. But I didn't know that they were challenging me. They wanted me to grow. They wanted me to develop. And so now I see it, and sometimes I'll tell that person, like, or maybe I won't. If I know they can handle it, like, I'm like, hey, I need you to go do this task. They're going to look at me like, what? And so that's where like both sides of it.
Absolutely, man. Those are some great points.
Let's dive into grit, and then we'll roll into your book, because I think your book's going to tie right into grit. So, how do you explain grit to somebody who is maybe nervous of taking that step?
Man, I think grit ties into every single thing. Back into my hero, David Farragut. You have to be gritty. You have to be willing to fight through adversity, because in order for you to be the better version of yourself, you're gonna have to do things that you've never done. And so, not to get ahead of myself with my book recommendation, I kind of reference it back, but your mind will try to quit before your body, because your mind is going through something that it has never felt before. And so that's where that grit comes in, when you have to keep pushing. Like, if you want to be better, if you want to be able to eventually run that 50-mile race, if you want to be the highest, highest ranking officer or the best performing officer, you're going to have to go out of your way to put in the extra work and keep fighting hard, embodying that grittiness to be better. And so I think grit is something that everyone needs to embody if they want to get better, because your mind and your body doesn't really know what it takes to get there. And in order to get there, you have to push through those hard times.
Yeah. I think to let everybody know, like, the thing is, we all have grit. Some people think they like don't have it, It's like, oh, I just don't think I could do it, like it's there. Everybody has the grit. We're evolved from it. It's from evolution, right? Like with the way humans were, walking through caves, starting fires, like that was grit. It's evolved in us. It's there. It's just, in a world of comfortability, grit is definitely set aside, where you have to dig a little bit deeper now to get gritty. It's just not needed as much to really survive. And so that's why I think some people that do dig deep and they do gritty things, they're more successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so let's talk about this book you got for everybody today.
Yeah, so one of the books that I read on 75 Hard, and I believe I read this. This is the second book I read during 75 Hard. I believe you read it as your first book, Cant Hurt Me by David Goggins. So the first book I read was Atomic Habits, but it played really well into, But I have to go with Cant Hurt Me, because just learning about David Goggins' story and about where he started and how we look at him now as an individual is just amazing. He's the testimony, right? And I believe he mentioned in his book, like, if he could do it, anybody could do it. Yeah. He came from a very troubled home, mother and father and siblings. And, when he kind of realized where he wanted to go in life, when he had to make the decision, he had to lose a lot of weight. I think it was like 100 pounds, right?
Yeah, it was like 300, and then he got like super light,
Yeah, he had to lose a lot of weight in a very short amount of time, and he did it. And I think that was like the first stepping stone for him, and then he just rolled into everything else, right? Going through buds, and then going through the other training. What was it? What was it? The Army Special Warfare, right? I forgot what the actual team is.
Yeah, all the different training he did, and
so he did the Naval Special Warfare, and he did also the Army Special Warfare School, and I forgot the exact name. But he continuously did these hard things, the 100-mile races, and just reflecting on where he started from is just a testimony for me, because even though I'm nowhere near like David Goggins, but I can kind of feel where he came from, because like I said, I was the guy during my reg runs during Bleep Summer, holding everyone back, falling out of my runs. Whereas like I just finished a 50-mile run last month. So just being able to grow and to be able to embrace grittiness and continue to fail and lose and learn from those losses and continue to win. So that book hit home for me, especially when I was reading it during 75 Hard. So it was really motivating, super, super motivating. It was the exact book I needed to read.
Yeah, for me, what it showed me was the mind. The mind is strong, but it's also like our worst enemy. It when I read 75 Hard, it showed me my body is a lot more capable than what my mind was saying. And you said it as well. Like, and every time I do something hard, when my mind tries to stop me, all I say is like, dude, just one more step. Because my mind is going to shift gears. Like, I go through runs and I get the same pains at around the same miles. And I tell myself, like, this is my mind telling me my ankle's going to hurt around 7. Cool. If I just go to 8, it's going to stop. Because my mind is like, oh, he's still going. So let's try to find something else. Oh, now it's my hip. No, but like mind, I know my hip isn't hurting. You're just telling me like it's hurting. It's going to loosen up here in a little bit. Cool. It's not hurting anymore. Oh, now it's like my side ache, right? Like the stupid side aches. That's just my mind telling me to stop. But if I just go further, it's going to give up. Like the mind is the ultimate competitor, but it's also the ultimate just like deceiver in everything we do. And that's why I love walking and rucking so much, because it takes the mind out of it. Unlike running, where like the mind is going to stop you pretty quick. When you're walking or rucking, the mind is only playing tricks on you because it's like bored. It's just like, yo, you're not doing anything, dude. Like you've been doing this for like 4 hours. You can stop now. But you're like, no, I feel fine because I'm not hurting. I'm pushing myself further than I've ever done before. And that's what Cant Hurt Me taught me. That the mind is going to try to stop me, but it's just, and that's where it talks about the governor. And I think that's where I learned a lot about the governor and the mind, where it's like, it's going to stop at your 70% because it won't let you get to 100. And Goggins talked about it. And I read another book called Endurer, which talked about it as well. It's the capacity of our mind stopping us from getting to 100%. And so there's people out there who are pushing the limits, like those ladies and guys that are running 100 miles. Like I don't know if you saw the breastfeeding lady that won like the 100-mile race. While she was breastfeeding, she stopped and would breastfeed and continue and won. And so, like, when I see that, I'm like, dude, what excuse do I have to, like, to, like, do a 100-miler? And so I love it when people will, like, joke with me, like, oh, you're like Goggins. I'm like, yeah, bro, I am. Because I would rather be compared to Goggins than somebody else that's not doing something.
Absolutely. Any day of the week.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm taking that as a compliment.
But what final notes do you have? Or if there's anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap this up?
Honestly, man, I really appreciate you for having me. We had a really good conversation. I think I hit everything I wanted to talk about, Great flow, great conversation. I feel like we addressed a lot of things that, needed to be talked about. I've received a few pointers from you. And I love talking to like-minded individuals. You want to improve, you want to consistently get better. So I'm motivated now. Even though I already worked out this morning, I feel like I need to go on a run right now. So I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah. And what I'll do after this is I'll put all your contact information in the show notes for those listening that want to follow you. Obviously, I'll make the reels and TikToks after this. I'll tag you in them as well. And I do appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time that listened. And one thing I'll say that I love about the show is surround yourself with like-minded people if you want to get to that next step. And we talked about it a little bit, but we didn't hit home on it. If you want to get somewhere that you're uncomfortable about going, find someone who's been there and just follow them. That's why, and I'm pretty sure your social media is similar to mine. We are following people that are more successful than us, more hardworking than us. And it's not to make us feel bad. It's to challenge us. And that's why I love social media. That's why I sort of twist the knot on social media. When people tell me it's bad, I go, it's because you're following bad people. Like social media is garbage in, garbage out. If you follow bad things, you're going to get garbage out of it. I sometimes am almost like jealous and like just not disappointed, but like I get on my feet and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this compared to this person? But it motivates me. And that's what I challenge people with social media is follow the people who are challenging you, because you become who you see. You become what you think. You become what you follow. And that's going to help you build that future self. And that's why I love your hero is your future self, man, because they're the ones who are they're mean, And so, I appreciate you being open about that as well and vulnerable to talk about that too.
Of course.
But with that being said, we'll stop here. We'll get a little info after, but appreciate your time. For those listening, just do what you got to do. Save, share, like, and follow. And I look forward to the next time we catch up, man.
Yes, sir.